My Lord and my God, I firmly believe that you are here, that you see me, that you hear me. I adore you with profound reverence. I ask you for pardon of my sins and grace to make this time of prayer fruitful. My Mother Immaculate, Saint Joseph, my Father and Lord, my guardian angel, intercede for me. To err is human, to forgive is divine. This saying was vividly resuscitated on the 4th of November 2021 in what I call the story of the four Marias. On that day, Alex and his wife Maria the mother I will call her, took their children to school. One of them was the 4 to 5-year-old Maria, the child. She would have probably had a normal day with time to play, some classes, a break. And in the evening, Maria the child went to the car park to wait for Maria the mother to pick her up. She stood there on the pavement with two of her friends from class. As they talked, another lady, Maria the driver, and also a mother of the school, got into her car. She started her car, and then the unexpected happened. The car lurched forward towards the children and hit them. The three girls lay unconscious on the ground, but Maria, the child, was in the worst of conditions. The chaplain of the school gave her the absolution. And you can imagine the scene. Parents and children gathered at the scene, well, trying to help. And as that happened, Maria, the mother, arrived. You can think of her grief at seeing her daughter dying. And she glanced up and saw a lady crying inconsolably. That was Maria, the driver. She walked up to her and gave her a warm embrace, saying, "Don't worry, this could have happened to anyone." It was a human error, but that was a divine embrace, because she forgave from the heart. To err is human, to forgive is divine. How many times, St. Peter asked, "Lord, if my brother sins against me, how often must I forgive him? As many as 7 times?" Jesus, you answered him, and you tell me today in my prayer, I say to you, not 7 times, but 77 times. Where 7 is a perfect number in the Bible. Many times, many, 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 many times. Forgive. And then you, Jesus, go on to tell that parable in which the king calls his servant, asking him to pay his debt. And the debt owed to the king was 10,000 talents by one of the servants. 10,000 talents. In converted to denarii, that would be over 50 million denarii. And the servant, we are told, did not have the means to repay. His master commanded that he be sold, along with his wife and children, all that he had, and repayment be made. So the servant fell to the ground and prostrated himself before him, saying, "Have patience with me. I will repay you everything." And the master of the servant felt compassion, and he released him and forgave him the debt. His debt of 50 million denarii went far beyond the wages that the servant could have earned in his whole lifetime. He would never have been able to pay back everything. Jesus, how many times have I experienced your compassion? That you release me, you forgive me. My sins far outweigh what I could pay back, yet you are always ready to forgive me in the sacrament of confession. Does the encounter with you in confession also move me to feel compassion on others, to look up at them, to see that they grieve in one way or the other, to release them, to forgive, even when they err. To err is human, to forgive is divine, to forgive from the heart. God of mercy and compassion, look with pity upon me, Father. Let me call thee Father. 'Tis thy child who returns to thee. It's a hymn that we sing in the Lenten season, and it comes over and over again in my mind. What a big heart you, Jesus, have. Do I also forgive from the heart? Is there a grudge I hold against someone at home, or at school, among friends, colleagues? Like the servant mentioned in the gospel, I'm forgiven so much in confession, beyond what I can pay back. Do I allow the grace of your forgiveness to enlarge my heart? Or do I take your forgiveness for granted and close my heart from forgiving others? And the gospel continues, that servant who had been forgiven 50 million denarii went out and found one of his fellow servants who owed him 100 denarii. Look at that, 100. And he seized him and began to choke him, saying, pay back what you owe. So his fellow servant fell to the ground and began to plead with him, saying, have patience with me, I will repay you. But he was unwilling. After being forgiven 50 million, he was unwilling to let go of the 100 denarii and went and threw him in prison until he would pay back what was owed. But Jesus, that's ridiculous. Does that sometimes happen to me? Do I allow the grace of your forgiveness to enlarge my heart? Or do I take your forgiveness for granted and close my heart from forgiving others? Force yourself, if necessary, always to forgive those who offend you from the very first moment. For the greatest injury or offense that you can suffer from them is as nothing compared with what God has pardoned you. That's a point from the Way, written by Saint Josemaria, point number 452. What's wrong with me? If you forgive me so much, why is it I sometimes find it so difficult to let go of grudges that linger in my soul? Oh, like a worm in an apple, gnawing away. It's because I don't gaze at the other person in the face. I'm not willing to give that divine embrace. Little Maria's mother looked at the woman who had run over her daughter and pronounced those words, don't worry, this could have happened to any one of us. And then gave her a hug. To err is human, to forgive is divine. To forgive from the heart. And that divine embrace spread like a tsunami all over Madrid. That didn't happen on Twitter. On Twitter, people were ranting and raving with rage that the lady, Maria, the driver, should have been put in jail, ranting and raving. But the reality of the divine embrace is what changed people's hearts. So many people were present at the funeral of little Maria, Maria the child. So many people went to the wake of Maria the child. Jesus, Lord, I ask for mercy. Let me not implore in vain. All my sins, I now detest them. Never will I sin again. Jesus, I detest my sins and shortcomings, and I will try to come to the sacrament of mercy during this Lent, ask you for forgiveness, but also to ask you to give me a big heart so that I can forgive from the heart. Is there anyone I have a grudge against here and now as I pray? I'm sorry, Lord. Have mercy on me. What are the unseen sufferings that person might be going through? To err is human, to forgive is divine. To forgive from the heart. I ask you, Jesus, that the story of the four Marias helps me to forgive from the heart. Oh yes, the fourth Maria, you might be wondering, who is she? None other than our mother, Mary. Maria, the child, was laid to rest on a feast of Our Lady of Almudena. She was laid to rest on a feast of Mary, and some people who attended the wake of Maria that night testified that they had given up practicing their faith many years ago. Nonetheless, they were so moved by the divine embrace that they came to the wake. And what did they pray at the wake? The Rosary. That's the fourth Maria. Mary, my mother, helped me during this season of Lent to reconcile myself with Jesus, but also learn how to forgive and to ask for forgiveness, to empathize with others and see that they too suffer. In this way, I will also be a good apostle of confession. People around me will also want to go to confession because I'm another Christ. I thank you, my God, for the good resolutions, affections, and inspirations you have communicated to me in this meditation. I ask you for help to put them into effect. My Mother Immaculate, Saint Joseph, my Father and Lord, my guardian angel, intercede for me.